So I obviously don't have hair. If I did, we'd be talking about my new favorite product today. But my girlfriend every day goes into the bathroom. She's got that long, beautiful hair. She's got the hot iron. She's got the curler. She's got things. I don't even know what they are. There is just stuff everywhere on the sink. And every morning I hear, don't touch, don't touch. Because how many times have you walked into a bathroom and seen a hot air, a hair iron or curlers or something as a guy, and you go, let me just move that out of the way, and you end up burning yourself. Yeah. Or for women, when you're so busy getting ready in the morning, you got your makeup out and your hair stuff out, and you don't realize it's still hot, and you touch it. Well, our guest today has come up with a solution for this that is just absolutely brilliant, and she has had tremendous success with it across her own site, on Amazon, and now she is selling at Target. We want to welcome to the show Erin Balogh.
Thank you.
Who is the founder, creator, genius behind Holster Brands. They have the hot iron holster, which does all of those lovely things I just spoke about. They also have the hobby holster. And my new favorite one is the little holster, or Lil holster, which you can put on soap or sponges or anything around a kitchen, I guess, or bathroom sink where you need to kind of keep everything more organized. So it is a great product. All right, I'm going to start with can you explain how the product came about, what you make the product of, and why it's been such a hit?
Yeah, so I had an idea for this product about 7.5 years ago. I was a former nurse. I used to work in the ER, and I had just had my second baby. I had a 2.5-year-old and a 3-month-old, and I was going back to work, and I found that when I was getting ready in the morning, I ended up moving all my stuff downstairs to kind of a small powder room, and it had a pedestal sink. It was just easier to move kind of closer to the kids and bring the kids up and be hanging out in my bathroom and, fishing around in my drawers and stuff. So, but I found that when I was getting ready on my sink that I didn't have room to put all my stuff like you described. Like I had a flat iron or a curling iron and my hairbrush and my makeup, and everything was like a bad balancing act. And then one item being hot, like I was always, and it's hot and expensive, like these tools. So I was always really cautious. I'd set it down and I kind of hoped that it didn't fall. And it was just kind of a little thing that just kind of kept bugging me every day when I got ready. I was like, I just want to be able to set it down and not have to think about it, and then just make this whole process kind of quicker. So I was actually just looking online one night to buy something, and I couldn't find anything. Everything was like acrylic plastic that you had to set on your counter, and you couldn't have anything hot because it would melt. Right. Or I could mount something to a wall, but I didn't want like a big thing on my wall. So I got thinking about it, and I kept thinking about silicone, because I had some silicone hot pads and an oven mitt and stuff in my kitchen and muffin tins, and I'm like, silicone's a neat material because it's heat resistant. I have hot things, if I can put silicone in a hot oven, why can't I put something hot into silicone? So I brought this over. I actually went to my kitchen. I don't know if you can see this.
Oh, this is amazing.
So this is like the original.
This is the prototype?
Yeah, oven mitt, and these are the hot pads.
Oh, I love.
I sewed them together, and then back here, I took out the coins, but there was a bag of coins, and it actually just kind of like sat like this. So this was anchored into the sink. This was on the outside, and my tool went in the pocket. So, and it was nice because it wasn't real pretty, but I could put it away real quick if I needed to clean up my bathroom. And it worked pretty well. I used that for like 6 months and felt like I kind of tested it. And the more I used it, the more I kind of liked it. And I found that I always kept pulling it back out. So that was kind of where the idea came from. The silicone's like crucial to it working. Right. And it's not only heat resistant, but partly how our product works. So the current version is like this. And it's actually kind of sticky on the backside. It's a good one. So it's shiny, and all it does is it kind of naturally sticks or clings to like a smooth surface. So we got rid of the bag of coins, made it kind of sticky, and yeah, it's pretty versatile. It works, like you said, in bathrooms and kitchens and bathtubs, on boats, like anywhere that it's smooth. So I think I answered 2 of your questions. Did you have a third one?
Okay, we're going to ask a whole lot of them.
Okay.
So, what's so interesting is you went with the old kind of mantra of find a need and fill it. You woke up and you said, okay, well, this is a disaster area in my bathroom. And certainly there are plenty of people watching who walk into their bathrooms every day and just go, it's just bad. Now, as somebody who, I shouldn't assume, had you ever invented anything before?
No.
Okay.
I think I like to make stuff. I'm kind of creative by nature, and I think I'm more like resourceful creative. So, I mean, there's been times around the house, you know, I've come up, like, even in, believe it or not, in nursing, sometimes you have to be a little resourceful. You don't always have what is ideal. So I think by nature, I'm a little bit that way, but I've never done anything like this and never tried to make a product or a company. You know. Yeah, I had no business background.
Well, and there are a lot of people who want to get into the e-commerce space and design their own businesses and design their own products. Mm-hmm. What was the biggest learning experience from you in the concept of, or in the I guess, from taking it from concept to actually making it and getting it to the point where it could sell?
You know, I feel like every step of the way, it was like you kind of had to, like, I don't know, you had to kind of break through the unknown, kind of. I mean, from the prototype I made, we were like, what do we do next? You know what I mean? We're like, well, maybe we should get a patent or apply for one, you know, and then we get the patent and we'd be like, now what? You know what I mean? And then we found like a rapid prototyping company, which I never even knew existed, you know, and then we got kind of like a fancier prototype. And then from there, we're like, how do we tell stores and buyers and like the public? And I do feel like it was very kind of incremental. Like we kind of learned as we went, which worked, I think. But I think as I've done this too, I found that there's so much value in kind of making connections and talking to people that have done it before, you know what I mean? So that you can just kind of pick their brain and see how they've done it and stuff. Because I mean, I really didn't have, like I said, any business background before this. So there's been a lot of like learning on the job. You know, we've come a long ways, but yeah.
Well, and it's like getting your MBA, only doing it in real life. I mean, how much smarter are you? How much more knowledgeable were you that each time, you know, your comfort level and your confidence in getting the product out?
Yeah.
What would if you had to give a couple tips to people who are just starting out and want to follow, you know, the path, certainly not the product, but the path you took, what would your tips to them be?
I think definitely you can't know everything, but I think you can do a lot of research, you know what I mean? And learn as much as you can. You're not going to know all the answers to all the questions that you have, and you can't kind of predict the future, but I think you can do due diligence and get in there, and don't be afraid. I mean, I get people that reach out to me all the time that are like, hey, I have an idea, or I just, you know, I'm starting up a company, or I just have questions, like where we were a few years ago. And you know, that's like very flattering, you know what I mean? And I think, oh no, I know how that feels. Like I understand that. And they're looking for just a little bit of guidance, or they want to bounce ideas off of. Yeah, so I think that's huge. And I think as you go along, you gain the confidence. The first trade show that we went to I had the idea in 2009, and we applied for the patent at the beginning of 2010, made our first kind of prototype, and then in 2011, so it took like 2 years, we took it to a show in Chicago, the International House and Homeware Show, and they had an inventor's corner. And I remember, like, before the show started that first morning, I told my husband, I'm like, I'd rather be doing CPR in the hospital right now. I was like, I am not. I was so nervous. I was like, because I didn't know the language. I didn't know what to expect. You kind of it's a part of you that you put out there. You put so much time, and people can come through and just say it's horrible. You know what I mean? And you care about it. It's kind of your baby, but you don't know until you kind of like, I don't know, tell people and kind of test the waters a little bit. So I think every step of the way you gain more and more confidence. I think as we've been doing this for a while, so I feel like, I don't know, you know more than you think you do sometimes too. You know, you have other careers and other experience that you might be able to draw on more than you think you do. So I've even found that just with some of my nursing experience, having to prioritize, you know what I mean, and just be organized and little things that kind of carry over. So I don't know if that's helpful.
Well, so we're talking to Erin Balogh from Holster Brands here on Fanatics Media e-commerce TV. And Erin, you know, you said something really interesting. It took 2 years, and that felt like a long time. But the reality is, and I have also been fortunate where I had a product and I took it to market, and it takes a long time. There's things you don't think about. There's paperwork that's out of your control and out of your schedule. There's research that you can only do hands-on. It's waiting for the prototype. So you know, a lot of inventors out there, and a lot of people who want to come into e-commerce with their own product, they're going to think, okay, if I can do this in June, by Christmas, I'm up and running. And barring some spectacular miracle, that is unlikely to happen. That 2 year span, and we always say it's really 18 months to 3 years. You know, that time period has to be planned in what you're doing. You know, if you have this great idea, don't quit your job just yet.
Yeah, definitely.
It's not around the corner.
Yeah, definitely. Because there's things, like you said, that are kind of out of your control. You set goals and you set kind of a timeline and everything, but You know, you go to the factory, and I mean, a big eye opener to us was Chinese New Year's. I mean, that just every year we've gotten so much better about preparing for it. But man, that is like just, and then yeah, other things that come out unexpectedly, and just the timelines of everybody that you're working with. I mean, we recently got into Target, and that process took, from the time our product was evaluated the summer before, it was about a 10-month process. You know, and we've been currently selling our product for like 3 years before that, but it was just rigorous, and you don't know until you get in, kind of. So,
well, walk us a little bit through that process, because there's a lot of folks who sell on e-commerce sites, Amazon, eBay, their own stores, that would die to get into Target. Like that, you know, a Target, a Home Depot, a Lowe's, the big box stores, the national chains. And it's certainly not easy. And it's certainly not easy if you're an entrepreneur and not your own distributor network. So kind of what was the process?
I feel like, you know, we weren't quite ready right out of the gates, I think. You know, when we first started selling the product in August of 2012, we sold it on our website. We had some small POs that kind of came in that we were thrilled with. And then we actually got in with Sky Mall. And that was just like so exciting. That was great, because Sky Mall, you know, puts their magazines on all the planes. So we had all this visibility. So that was just, you know, super exciting to us. But it really took us, a couple years. I mean, we got in January of 2013, February, we got on QVC for the first time and ran for like a good year with the hot iron holster. And that was just huge. But there came a lot of learning with it, and be able to kind of like fulfill, you know, everything that was required, and learning their vendor guides and everything like that. So the way that we've had the most success meeting buyers and really getting into big box stores is through trade shows. Our product is very demonstrable, like demonstrable, and when we can show it and have them actually feel it and touch it, they get it. We kind of created like a new category. There weren't a lot of curling iron holders on the market. There's a lot of toothbrush holders or trash cans, you know, but this is a little bit different. So there's been a big like consumer education component with it, and then just branding and just constantly marketing and kind of selling the message. So yeah, our trade shows have probably been the biggest thing, just because we can talk directly to the buyers. You don't know always what buyers you're going to get, you know, and you don't know if you're going to, even within stores, there's different buyers for different departments. So you might get the, you know, like in Target, you might get the bath buyer, or you might get the beauty buyer, or you might get the children's, you know, clothing buyer. Like there's just, so you can't always kind of control it. And it's a different, I don't know. It's a, what's the word? I think it was kind of this secret. I didn't know how it worked before we got in it, but now having worked with different buyers and just seeing kind of how they work on their end and what they're looking for and pricing and all that kind of stuff, it's a lot more complex and interesting than I thought. But I think
it's like seeing behind the curtain.
Biggest things. What's that?
It's a little like seeing behind the curtain.
For sure.
Right? You know, there's this whole world out there.
Yeah.
That
and they have a lot of responsibility on their ends, and they're looking to fill a gap in their planogram that they want to help, you know, improve. And they're looking to meet certain margins and numbers and everything like that, and how you fit. And it's really kind of fascinating. But
sure.
Yeah, that was a big secret. I remember the first year, like back in 2012, right before we went to our first trade show, I remember like emailing Bed Bath & Beyond to submit a product, and we didn't hear back. I'm not surprised, but that was a big mystery. We're like, how do we get into stores, and how do we actually show them and get through the door? And for us, that's been the biggest success. You know, and then through our network of kind of like, you know, meeting other small companies through trade shows, and just been doing this a few years, you feel like you kind of start to grow your network a little bit more, you know what I mean? And you can kind of reach out directly, or, I mean, it's not often that they'll reach out to you directly. Every now and then we get inquiries. You know, we've done some private label stuff and stuff like that, where they've seen our product and want to partner or do like a co-branding or stuff like that. So that's cool too. So.
Now, you've also had success e-commerce, right? So you've been on Amazon, you got your own site. Talk to us a little about, we'll start with your site. What was the experience like to put it up? And as you expand your product line, how do you plan on keeping the website kind of, you know, up to date with all the products?
So website versus Amazon, you mean?
Yep.
Yeah. You know, Amazon was kind of interesting. We felt like, I mean, our business model wasn't just to keep all of our products on our website and not sell anywhere else. Like, we felt like we could sell more volume and get it out. Everybody buys on Amazon. Right. You know, it's just such a big big store. So we felt like it was kind of crucial, and we had small businesses that were selling on Amazon. So before we even started kind of our own, Fulfilled by Holster Brands Amazon site, we had these small businesses, but we found that we had a hard time keeping the map. People weren't always honoring it, and that was probably the biggest headache that we had. Even if we had them sign map agreements, sometimes they would have one store and then they would have a second Amazon store, and we couldn't track who was selling what. We knew we sold it to A, but then they had a B or a C store that they sold it from under a different name. And that was tricky because then we had other sellers that were keeping map, and then they were mad, and it was this constant struggle. So there was a little learning in the beginning to get that cleaned up and to really find people that we could work with well and that would honor the map pricing. So there was definitely a learning curve with that. And then we got to where we decided just to have our own Amazon site. So that was a lot of work to set up. I don't know if you want specifics, but I remember going
yeah, no, please.
Just setting up each product, each color, all the photos that went with it, all the descriptions that went with it. And then there's been a little bit of a challenge here and there with other sellers. Even on the Amazon site, we have to go in constantly and just make sure that like descriptions haven't been changed. I don't know what Amazon does on the back end, but sometimes things don't always quite stay the same. So I'm not an expert on the back end of Amazon, but we monitor it pretty closely. We kind of learned our lesson, but it's a great place to sell your product. So,
well, we had that issue actually this week with one of the products we represent. We went in to change our listing, and we hit save and continue, and 15 minutes later it's supposed to be up, and keep checking our page, and there's no change.
Yeah.
And somebody else opened a seller account, and they were selling our product, and until we can get that product taken care of, it's still up there. And I look up, and they've now got all of our bullet points.
Yep.
And so we literally spent 3.5 hours on the phone with Amazon over 2 days to get that settled. And so the back end of Amazon, for Seller Central at least, which a lot of the people who are watching are taking part in, or want to take part in, it looks easy. Yeah. It looks like it should make sense. But there are times where you start a product, you start a description, and you want to fill in certain boxes because they are on all your competitors' pages, and the boxes literally aren't an option on your page. Yeah. And you're looking at it going, God, what?
It doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense.
Yeah. Well, and I felt like, too, we thought we would get it set up and our hands were we were like done, you know what I mean? And I was surprised. We're in there, like, we actually use, we managed it for a long time, I think for about 1.5 or 2 years, and then we brought in kind of an Amazon expert fulfillment company that we've worked with more closely the last couple of months just to kind of trial and see if they could get our numbers up. And they're experts in Amazon. Right. So they're doing more Amazon ads, and it's been good. And I think it's been nice to kind of bring in, we do a lot on our own. We have, but I think Amazon was one of those that we just felt like we would try this to see if it kind of made it a little easier, because Amazon there's a lot to it in managing it. And it's been so far a good experience.
Well, a lot of people think that Amazon's a set it and forget it thing. And we tell them, if you are not in your listing at least 5 days a week, then you're totally missing out on everything going on. It is not for the most part, we have heard some products get lucky where you just catch that $1 million lottery ticket, you put up the original thing, and it just, all you got to worry about is your inventory. But if you're counting on that, you're approaching it wrong. Yeah, you need to be in there often. You know what's going on. You got a different keyword testing, CPC testing for your ads. You got to keep checking your placements. Altering things as the holiday seasons come up, sales, promotions. There are all these things that need to be done as if you're running a real store, because it is a real store. Yeah.
It's dynamic, and depending on the time of year and your competitors. One of the things that we've really had to work hard on with Amazon is there's a lot of knockoffs. We hold patents on our product, and we protect them because they're really important to us. Right. So Amazon is usually where we find the knockoffs that pop up, that are, and we have an attorney that we're constantly sending, and usually she just has to send like a cease and desist. Right. Our product's a little unique because we do have patents on it and we do protect them, but that's been an interesting thing. And they're always cheaper than our product, and they're built poor, and the reviews are horrible, and they confuse the customer. And a lot of times they pull all of our bullet points and all of our photos. So it's just kind of a mess sometimes. Yeah.
Well, and it's interesting you said, because we brought up with a couple other sellers that there has been this mass influx of Chinese counterfeiting, and not to blame any particular country, but that happens to be where it's coming from, and they don't follow patent rules because they don't care, and they are willing to make anything cheaply, and much like you said, it's a knockoff, and it's a bad knockoff, and it does brand damage. Outside of your lawyer's cease and desist letter. When you started seeing all of these things happening and seeing the knockoffs, what was your business approach to it?
Yeah. It's not like we don't draw attention to it. Usually we contact them directly. Sometimes it would hurt, if there was another. Usually our buyers and our stores that we sell to want like protection. They want to know that we protect our patents and that we're kind of, I don't know, keeping others out of the marketplace,
right.
You know what I mean, which is unique to us. So, even before we had the attorneys, there were times that we would call directly, you know what I mean, and just kind of tell them like business to business, you know what I mean. This is if we could find a contact number,
right.
And if we could actually find who they were. So we've gotten pretty good at investigation work. We've actually found like ports that they were delivered to, and we can actually kind of track. We can get a bill of lading sometimes. Like it's kind of crazy what you can find. But we would usually kind of try to start there, and then if it escalated to the next, they know. We find that often they've done it before, and they kind of know what they're doing, even though they kind of claimed that it was all an accident. Right. They had no idea. So we've gotten a little smarter with that. But some we've contacted directly through email. At one trade show, there was actually a knockoff that was a couple rows over, and my husband just went up and said, you can't have this. You know what I mean? And my husband's he's kind of our CEO. So we work side by side, and he just went over and said, "This, we have a hold a patent on this," and and they were just a Chinese company that. So by the end of the trade show, we had all the samples, and we took them.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Wow.
You have to, and we had full patent protection, and they were violating everything. So we've learned a little bit more kind of how to, and you got to stand up for your product. We fought too hard, and we've come too far, you know what I mean? We spend a lot of money, even kind of protecting through lawyer and attorney fees and stuff like that, but for good reason. So, and we knew that was kind of part of our business, but we take it seriously.
Well, you guys did something I also think is brilliant. I'm saying you guys as in you and your husband. I'll share the credit if you don't mind.
Yep.
A lot of times we talk to people and they have these great ideas for products that are electronics or batteries or really, really complex products. And the problem is, the factory making them has to be complex. They have to get everything right. And that's where you start entering in a lot of returns. Your product, once you get the molds, I imagine is fairly simple to make.
Yes.
And you don't have to worry about things really breaking. You don't have to worry about parts falling off. You don't have to, it's light. And so your shipping costs are low. So you kind of hit the home run of single easy mold per product.
Yeah.
Reasonably priced materials for the product, and you may even be getting them cheap for all I know, and low shipping.
Yeah.
When you consider other products that you want to add to the holster line, and again, we're talking to Erin Balogh from Holster Brands, you should definitely go check out their site, because if you do your hair in the morning, if you do your makeup, if you're in a bathroom getting ready, you're going to want the hot iron holster. I already know I have a little hobby, or a little holster coming my way for our sink, so I can stop wondering where the sponge always is. But as you look to expand your product line, how much of that do you take into consideration before deciding, that's too complex, or we don't need to go down that road?
Yeah, so it's been interesting. I mean, we manufacture our product in China, which, people may feel differently about. When we looked into it initially, we actually worked with a U.S. manufacturer of silicone, and they manufactured both silicone in U.S. and in China. But what we needed, and with the cost of molds and labor and everything, we didn't have a choice. If we were going to sell it for a good price point, right, then we had no option if we were even going to have a business. So we've learned a lot through the manufacturing process. We've actually gone over to the factory in China just to see and to kind of understand a little bit better quality control and the molds and the whole process of how they do everything, which was really, really interesting. But as we've thought about we always have ideas for more product extension and different types of products, similar to kind of what we do, but then some different ideas too. And some of them involved, more than silicone. Right. You know what I mean? So finding, our factory is actually a great factory. We've been super pleased with them. They even will bring us, that there's been times where another company has approached them and said, hey, we want to make this product and brand it in our name. And they come and notify us of it and say, hey, this company wanted to make your product and buy it from us. And they're pretty ethical, wow, which has been wonderful. So, but they do have they manufacture all different kinds of products, not just silicone. So they do have some experience in sourcing different things, which has been great too. But it's a challenge. I think China does really well at, they make a great product. You know what I mean? Right. They know how to do the molds and do a nice finished product, but sometimes some of the challenges that come with products and problem solving and kind of finding different solutions. We have a product that we're thinking about doing, and they come back to us, and sometimes they don't think outside the mold a little bit. You know what I mean? Like they're very, I don't know, very focused. You tell them what to do and they do it exactly. But then sometimes they come to a little hitch or a problem and you're like, well, why don't we do this? And they're like, oh, well, I don't know. So it's been a little bit, it's been interesting. So we haven't actually manufactured anything with other parts to it, but we're looking to do so in the future. So, yeah.
What was the process like finding the factory in China?
Oh, so we initially started back in 2012, I think it was. We had gotten this we worked with this rapid prototyping company, and we had a latex version, not silicone. And we were kind of stuck. They were like, well, we've brought you as far as we could, but now you need to go find like a real manufacturer. And they said, well, you know, there's a plastic medical convention up in Anaheim. We lived in San Diego. Okay. And they're like, why don't you just walk the floor and see if you see anyone that makes silicone products? I don't know if this is the best way to do it, but we were like, well, sure. And it does help to kind of talk face to face versus calling on the phone sometimes. So we walked the floor and it was all like medical tubing. I used to be a nurse, so I felt really at home. It was like tubes and catheters and all kinds of stuff. So we walked the floor and we found a couple companies that looked like they kind of made larger silicone products, and we didn't tell them directly. We needed an NDA signed. But we kind of got some contact information and then went back home and kind of followed up with them and found a company that we used initially that worked really well and kind of got us started. And then as we kind of grew bigger and we started kind of looking around, we ended up finding a second manufacturer. So we had two at one time, and then we've kind of just comparing costs and everything, we've gone to the second one. So the second one, actually, we met at a trade show. It was just one of their kind of salespeople, or I don't know. She would hold different accounts. She was walking around kind of looking for herself and her company, saw our product, and we kind of hit it off. And I think we learned enough at that point. We knew enough questions to ask. We knew exactly what we needed. That made a big difference too. You know, we felt confident and we felt like we were, I don't know, it was good. We kind of started, we looked into it with them and then decided to kind of move forward and kind of test it. And then as we've gotten further and further into it, they've been a good relationship too. So they're actually, they work with a factory in China, but they're actually out of the US. So it's like a broker.
Oh,
so we don't call China directly and say, hey, we need this fixed. And I think for us, that's been wonderful. I've talked to a lot of other companies that they go direct to China and they say it's just a nightmare trying to work out the specifics of color or size or different designs, or, you know, it can go really bad really quick and you can spend a lot of time just on logistics and everything.
Right.
So that's been one thing that we pay a little bit more for, but we feel like it's valuable. You know, for our time and then getting the quality product that we want, it's worked out well for us.
Sure.
So,
well,
yeah.
that is outstanding. I love the fact that it was at a medical convention. That's just that's great. One question we ask before we let you go, and we ask everybody we have on the show, because I think that technology is such an important part of growing an e-commerce business. Yeah. There are a million apps, it seems, a million different companies offering, you know, all kinds of help on Amazon, all kinds of e-commerce help. What are the most important technologies or apps or software that you use with Holster Brands that you just rely on and trust and would recommend to other people?
Yeah, we've tried a lot, I feel like. We do. We hear about something, you know what I mean, and then we kind of test it, and some things are better than other. We've done different like organization apps just to kind of keep like our projects on task and everything. And then I do a lot on the marketing side. So I've looked into a lot of like apps and programs that kind of match influencers with brands, because I do feel like that's just a great source of kind of showing your product and relatively low cost, you know, versus buying a TV commercial or something. Social media is big. So there's an app that I've recently been using called Collaborate, and it's like COLLABOR8, the number, and it's just a phone app, and it's basically a program where you can meet bloggers and influencers. And you just pay a percentage of maybe a fee that you might. So if you work with a collaborator, or if you work with an influencer and they charge you, you know, $20 or whatever it is for a post, or you pay like a 2%, kind of interest fee on top of it. Where I've looked into a lot of other apps, and there's, a monthly fee, and then on top of that, you're paying collaboration fees. So it's crazy, especially in the marketing side of things, how pricey things get really quick, and you're always weighing, like, is it worth my dollar? And the more you do, the more you can compare, you know what I mean? Say, this over here, I'm getting that, and I'm not getting. So I feel like it's a constant, like, we're still a small business, and we watch our money, all the time, and you have to be wise. So you're constantly looking to see if I can put it here or there. As far as other apps on the computer, and we use QuickBooks for accounting. Our website, our platform is Business Catalyst, if anybody's interested, in knowing more about that. Trying to think of anything else off the top of my head. I mean, in the beginning, I Googled everything, right? Which seems simple, but man, I mean, there's just so many things that you don't know that you can find a lot on the internet, even just different.
You can find everything, and YouTube education videos are the most popular thing on there. Just how do I? Every day I seem to be on YouTube with a how do I question, and there's experts answering it. Yeah. The other thing I've been using more recently, I think I feel like you can never stop learning, and my background was nursing. I actually did have like a business minor, but that was like years ago, you know what I mean? And I never used it. So I feel like there's that component that I feel like I don't always know. So I've been using lynda.com through Love Lynda.
LinkedIn. And just anything I want to know, I can get in there with marketing or Google Ads or videography, anything that I just want to know a little bit more about, working with influencers. So I think that's been really valuable. So, yeah. Well, I want to offer you sincere congratulations on the success of your product. They are very, very cool. It was a smart idea, and I always love when entrepreneurs do well. Once again, we've been talking with Erin Balogh of Holster Brands. Go check them out. You want the hot iron holster, I swear. Erin, what is the website, just so everybody has it? You can go to www.holsterbrands.com. They made it very difficult to find themselves. Yeah. Erin, thank you so much for your time today, for spending a few minutes with us, and again, continued success, and we look forward to all the new iterations of everything you're bringing out. Oh, thank you. Thanks, Justin. Thank you very much.